Good morning, it's April 3rd, and this is To My Liberal Friends. As a young man growing up in the Pittsburgh area, it was known as a union town and a strong Democratic town. I lived about a block from Union Electric Steel in East Carnegie, Pennsylvania. The men in the neighborhood worked at Union Electric or the mill that stood beside it. I myself worked a summer at Union Electric. I spent another summer at Jones and Laughlin Steel on the south side of Pittsburgh in the open hearth department, and my final summer was on the coke works at the U.S. Steel's Clairton plant. And those summers were very informative to me because I got to work side by side with some of the hardest working men I've ever known. They loved their families and their country. They looked those like me, the summer college kids, as someone to be guided and protected. To them, we were the future of the nation. Now, they all belonged to the United Steelworkers Union, and we were required to join the union for the summer. They supported Democratic politicians because they felt these were the ones that would look out for the working man. Republicans were the businessmen, lawyers, and country club set. And this is who the Democratic Party used to represent, the working men and women of this country. But in the last 10 to 20 years, the Democratic Party has changed. I remember former Congressman Jim Hansen telling me that he grew up a Democrat, but he did not leave the Democratic Party, it left him. That is how most of these working men and women feel. They see a Democratic Party that's more interested in the white liberal elites in the major cities of the country. They see a party chasing social issues that are foreign to the working class of this country. In 2016, Donald Trump openly courted the blue-collar workers. He told them he wanted to make America great again, and in doing so, he would put American workers first and demand that companies bring home jobs that have been shifted to other countries. Now in 2025, he begins a second term of office. After being outside looking in for the past 4 years, Trump is once again on the aggressive side of the equation and wanting companies and nations to invest in the United States. One of the more aggressive policies he's now pursuing is putting tariffs on goods made outside the United States and shipped here. He believes, and I think correctly, that the United States market is the crown jewel of consumer base. He believes every foreign manufacturer realizes this and wants to play in the U.S. market. But Trump also realizes for many years, even decades, they've had access to the U.S. market while their own government has used financial and non-financial trade barriers to ensure U.S. manufacturers do not have the same access to their domestic markets. To make things more equal, Trump has decided to place what he refers to as reciprocal tariffs, and he laid them out yesterday afternoon. And by that he means if you place a tariff on U.S. goods, you can expect a similar tariff placed on goods from another country. Getting back to the working men and women, it has become apparent there's been a cataclysmic shift in who they vote for. And until the last election, where Trump swept every swing state, including states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin, long considered to be the blue wall by Democrats, Democrats did not seem too concerned about where those working class voters were going. In 2016, Chuck Schumer summed up the party's attitude by predicting that, quote, for every blue-collar Democrat we lose in western Pennsylvania, we will pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia, end quote. What we saw was a Democratic Party embracing identity politics and talking in a condescending way toward those who did not accept these new terms. Under Joe Biden and the liberal media, corporations were told to embrace this new culture. And to the average American, especially those in the working class of this country, this was both foreign and objectionable. What we have seen is a revolt by these voters against the liberal urban elites. They objected to being told they did not understand and how they would have to change how they thought and lived. And this has led to this huge block of voters moving with their ballots. They flocked to Donald Trump and by default to other Republicans. The question to most political scientists watching this phenomenon is whether this is unique to Trump or is it a complete shifting of the political paradigm. The political preferences of the working class voters can be confusing. They're progressive when it comes to wages and jobs. They like the protectionist policies on trade. They want a secure border and stopping illegal immigration. But when it comes to other issues like these, they're moving the right hardly and fast. And they do not accept these cultural changes, and they're concerned for their children about the massive debt this country's piling up. Donald Trump speaks of common sense, at least he says he does, and this resonates with his voting bloc. He may not always be on the mark, but they're listening and nodding their heads in approval. And this is the conundrum the Democrats now find themselves. They've wedded themselves to these progressive ideas, and the emerging leaders of their party, like AOC, are on the progressive side. They've listened to the white liberal elites in urban cities who like to view themselves as egalitarian and accepting of anyone who lives on the fringes of reality. The result has been the creation of a term they like to use when describing Middle America. They call it flyover country as they travel from one coast to another. If they continue this patronizing attitude, they will continue to lose elections, and these voters will stay in the red column even after Trump is gone. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.